Hello, good evening. I hope this finds you really kind of fitting well. I'm still here in the sixth form. I can see the kind of storm kind of setting in around us here at Sherburn High School. But thanks ever so much for kind of joining us on the live Q&A event. As I say, I hope this finds you really well. This kind of event marks a series of events that we're putting on in light of the fact we can't run a face-to-face sixth form open evening. So hopefully you've received the prospectus and the subject booklet. If students are still wanting those, if they just let me know and I'll bring those to them, but hope you've had a chance to have a look at those. The other thing is I'm visiting period 1 with all year 11 students. So I've visited, I think it's 4 of the year 11 forms now, and I'm due to finish off those visits on Thursday and Friday of this week. And the other thing is you should have received a letter as parents and carers that's also had details of the website. There's a promotional video on there, and there's also videos for each of the subject videos as well. So hopefully you've had an opportunity to review some of that literature before this evening. And thank you to so many of you. I've got various different pieces of paper here with all the questions that you've sent in advance. So what I will do is I will answer some of those questions now. And also this session will be recorded. So if for whatever reason you miss some of the questions or you want to review the answers again to make sure you've really understood what I've said, then the recording will be made accessible after the event. So I'll start off with the questions, as I say, have been sent through in advance. So the first question that came through was, if a student wishes to take maths and further maths as 2 of their subjects, will they be able to take 2 other subjects, so 4 in total? And this is an answer that I feel particularly qualified to answer because I'm a maths teacher and I teach further maths as well. So the answer is absolutely yes. They can take maths and further maths and then 2 other subjects. The evidence actually suggests that those students who take further maths actually perform better in the maths A level as well. So we would always encourage really students to take 4 A levels when they take maths and further maths. And really what they should be doing is considering during year 12 potentially dropping down to 3 subjects. The universities actually only require 3 subjects for entry onto most undergraduate courses, in fact all undergraduate courses. But yeah, you can take maths and further maths and pick up 2 other A levels. It's worth mentioning that you cannot take further maths without taking maths A level, so that's important to know. So that's the first question. The second question is, my son is thinking of studying law, English language and business studies. These are not listed on your facilitating qualifications for Russell Group universities. Does this mean that these subjects potentially selected would not rank as important to Russell Group unis as those on the facilitating qualifications? So the short answer is no. In terms of you applying to a university course, the universities will require 3 A levels. Now, in most cases, it may not be that a particular A level is specified. Now, it depends on what course you're applying to. So clearly, if I'm wanting to do a history course, then it's probably going to require me to have done history A level. If I'm applying to do medicine, then there's going to be a requirement for me to have biology and chemistry as part of my A levels. So it really depends on what the student's next step is, really, in terms of what those A levels are. But typically what will happen is a university will say, right, you need to get, let's say, 2 Bs and a C in your A levels. It may be that one of those, there's a particular stipulation for a grade in a particular subject, but actually in a lot of cases it may just be a case of you can have 2 Bs and a C, 2 As and a B in any subjects. So actually the shorter answer is no, but what I would advise you to do is advise you to go onto the UCAS website, which is capital UCAS, which is the Universities and College Admissions Service. And probably the best thing for you to do is to search for courses on there and to look at their entry requirements for what your son potentially wants to do, and to look at whether or not there's a stipulation on a particular A level that they must take, because some universities may prefer particular A levels for particular courses. Question 3. The prospectus mentions that there are career appointments in year 12, and how do these career appointments address kind of career choice and also suitability as well? So actually, the careers advice that we provide is provided through an independent careers advisor who works, she's in school a couple of days during the school day. So as far as that's concerned, it is completely independent of us, and that's a really good thing, because that person is qualified and has been trained to provide professional careers advice. So in that sense, they can take their reports. So there are 3 reporting times during year 12. There are a further 3 during year 13, and actually they can seek out that independent and professional advice in terms of, look, if this is where I'm up to and these are the grades that I'm getting, what might be my next steps. I'll kind of come back to this a little bit later, but we do offer extensive advice on next steps post 18, universities or apprenticeships. We put on a range of different kind of information, whether that's through the tutorial program, or particularly when students are considering to apply to university or apprenticeships, we try and provide them with as much information. And again, I'll talk a little bit about that later. But yeah, we do have an independent careers advisor, and actually in terms of suitability with universities, it's fairly straightforward, because we would look at grades, but we provide lots of information on the apprenticeship opportunities out there. A couple of years ago, we ran a webinar with a lady called Anna Morrison, who's from Amazing Apprenticeships. That's actually available to view on the school website, so it's well worth checking that out. And that kind of gives a broad overview as to what apprenticeships there are on offer. We do try and give them a balanced view in terms of, it's not just a case of you come into sixth form and you must do university. We provide other kind of input as well. Next one. This is a classic. What would happen if we start a course and we realise that we don't like it? Would we have to go through the whole 2 years? So the first thing to say is we try and provide you with as much information so that doesn't happen. Okay, so actually we provide you with a taster day which was just before the summer, so hopefully that started to give you some ideas. You've had the prospectus, you've got the subject videos, you've got an opportunity to talk to staff. You've also got another taster day which is coming up next week on Thursday, which again will give you an opportunity to try out different subjects. Between now and the summer, obviously, there's again opportunity to talk to tutors, opportunity to talk to your subject teachers about, what's this course going to look like? Is it something I want to do? One big consideration for students is whether or not, if they're good at exams, then A-levels are typically a good route. If examinations, kind of one-off exams, are not something that you're too keen on, then I'd probably recommend a BTEC or a Cambridge National. So we do offer a number of courses, so have a look in the prospectus, which are not kind of largely exam based. It might be that it's 50% coursework, 60% coursework, and some students will prefer that. So the first thing to answer that question is we provide lots of guidance initially to try and get you on the right course. And what we find is historically is that most students will stick with the A-levels that they've started with because they've had lots of information in the lead up and they've done that research and been really sure about what it is. However, if you are unsure, then when you sign up in September, what I would encourage new students to do is to pick up 4 A-levels initially. Now, the vast majority of students will only take 3 A-levels through to the end of year 13. In taking 4 initially, it will mean that you've got a proper opportunity to try out those A-levels and then make a decision, typically towards the back end of September or beginning of October, as to which of those 3 you're going to continue with into year 13. We call it our sixth form transfer window because there is an opportunity early on for you to drop down from 4 to 3, but also if you're doing 3 A-levels, at that stage we'd say that it's okay for you to switch across between courses. What I would say is that after that point, we kind of, wherever possible, we would encourage students to continue with courses. A-levels are hard, and we know that actually most post-16 students come across a moment during their post-16 journey where actually they find things really difficult. And actually what we do in the first instance is we get them to work with teaching staff to encourage them to continue, because what we don't want is students coming to us in January, February time of year 12 and saying, I want to change subjects, because actually that's really problematic. They've missed a full term of input, and at A-level that's a significant amount of work to pick up on. However, each case is different. I tend to meet with those students to discuss the different options with their families if they are looking to switch courses. But as I say, so there's an opportunity to switch at the end of September. I suggest you start off with 4. We provide you with lots of information to try and stop that from happening, because it probably would put you at a disadvantage. If you then get to a point where you're still thinking, right, I really want to change, and that's later on in the year, then that's an individual conversation, but it's very rare, to be honest. We only have probably kind of I think there's been 1 or 2 students this year have been looking to do that out of 80. Next one. I hope this doesn't happen, but what happens if we decide to leave sixth form after we started? No. And is that even a thing? Again, it very rarely happens. In fact, actually the converse is much more common. There was only, I think it was only a couple of weeks ago, I was contacted by a parent of a student who went to a local college, and actually the parents just sort of saying, look, actually the student's just really not coping within the college environment. Can they come back? Of course they can. Yeah, that's no problem at all. If you know sixth form isn't for everybody, some people do inevitably decide that they start doing A-levels and they think, actually this is not for me, and they might go off and find an apprenticeship. That's absolutely fine. We will facilitate you doing that, and I'll say it's not a best kind of fit for everybody. It's fairly atypical. Doesn't tend to happen. Our students tend to stay with us right the way through to the end of year 13. But again, it would be a conversation about where are you wanting to be post 18? What are your aspirations for the future? Is this a really good decision for you? And we try to kind of talk through all the different options before we got to the point at which the student was looking to leave us. Next question, how many free periods will we get? We're sticking to the key issues here, and how many days will we need to be in school? Well, in terms of free periods, so what you've got is, if you take 3 A-levels, there are 8 hours of contact time per A-level. So you're talking about 24 hours of contact time in terms of teaching, and then you have an hour's tutorial every week. So that's 26 hours of contact time. So in that sense, if you think about the 50 hours over a fortnight, you've got 24 hours of private study. Okay. Now, there might be some students who start watching this jumping for joy going, oh my word, 24 hours, that sounds amazing. But the point is that level 3 courses, whether they're A-levels or BTECs or Cambridge Nationals, they are really challenging courses. And that's the reason why there's such a volume of private study, is because actually, yes, you've got the opportunity to work flexibly, to be able to work from home if you want to enjoy the facilities we've got in sixth form, but actually you've got to work. Okay, and there's a lot of work to be done. We recommend to staff that they set around 5 hours of independent study per subject per week. I'd always recommend that students try and use that 24 hours that they've got over a course of a week, over a course of 2 weeks, in order to get as much of that private study done. Because the last thing I want them to do is to be going away on a weekend and then be working for however many hours on a Sunday. If they work really efficiently with their time, then actually can get a lot of that private study done. But in terms of free periods, you have 24 hours across 2 weeks, or 12 hours per week, which you can be using to do independent study, or you can be using to do other things, as long as that independent study has been done. In terms of days you need to be in school, it depends really on the subjects that you choose. So some students find that because of the combination of subjects that they choose, that what happens is they may end up with, say, for example, a Tuesday where they've got no lessons at all. Okay, but it really does depend from student to student. I'd say typically that most of our students will end up with possibly a day where they're not expected to be in sixth form. Next question, I think I've kind of covered this a little bit already, but just for kind of clarity, another question was, how many subjects do we need to pick for A-levels? So you really need to be taking 3 all the way through to year 13. However, if you are unsure of anything, you're unsure of which A-levels to take, I would always recommend that you take 4 initially. I think there was one student this year who took 5 initially because they really weren't sure, but have now dropped down to 3. So you'll need to take 3 all the way through to year 13, but taking 4 is a good idea initially, just so that you're really sure you're making the right choice. Another question was, could we offer, as a sixth form, could we offer a child development course? So this is a really interesting question. What we do is every single year we conduct a curriculum review, and we do that alongside our colleagues at Tadcaster Grammar School. So what we do is we look at the subjects that we currently offer, and we think about how we can best cater for our community. And actually, we are very much an inclusive school. We want to offer a curriculum within the sixth form that is inclusive for all. So at this moment in time, we do not offer a child development course. But that's not to say that if in the future there was significant demand for a child development course across the 2 schools, that's something we could implement in doing. And really what I'm keen to do is to listen to our community, to listen to our parents and carers, to listen to our students. And actually, if there are particular courses or there are particular things that we are losing students to college, and there's things that they're really passionate about that we're not offering, then perhaps we need to be looking at developing that curriculum over time. What I would say is that we currently offer health and social, which is one of our BTECs, which is equivalent to an A-level, and I know that has an element of child development within it. So whilst we don't offer child development within our sixth form now, there are elements of child development that are within our health and social course, and our fantastic health and social teacher, Miss Dodd. So that's, hopefully that kind of answers that to a certain extent. Some other questions. Yeah, this is a good one. What if all the courses that my child wants to study are all at Tadcaster Grammar School? So we get probably maybe I think it was about maybe one student last year where this was the case, where they actually came back to us and said, right, we want to do psychology, sociology and criminology, or something similar. What we would say is that given that all 3 of those subjects are based at Tadcaster Grammar School, it would only be right for our students to apply to Tadcaster Grammar School sixth form. We are a collaborative sixth form, but in terms of how it works with funding, but also just the student experience, if they're doing all 3 subjects at Tadcaster, the right thing to do is for them to apply to Tadcaster Grammar School, and they would be based over there. They'd have the tutorial through there. They'd receive their pastoral support through there. So if they do all of their subjects at TAD, then they really do need to apply to Tadcaster Grammar School. What we would say otherwise is that as long as students do, we would say typically that students tend to pick either all of their subjects at Sherborne because they're really familiar with staff at Sherborne High School and that's where they want to be, or they might pick 1, or in a few circumstances they might pick 2 subjects at Tadcaster Grammar School. But yeah, that's how it works if they apply to all TAD subjects. Next question, what happens if my child doesn't get the GCSE grades required? Is there any other way that they can stay at Sherborne High School? So again, our standard kind of entry requirements for the sixth form is students need to get, I think it's 5 grade 4s across their GCSEs. But we do have some students that will come to us and say, look, sir, you know, like I haven't been able to get those grades. And as I say, we are an inclusive school. We are here to serve our community. And actually, that's a conversation between myself, the student, and families in terms of what we can offer. What we can do is we can offer a 3-year pathway within sixth form. So it might be that actually, rather than a student jumping straight into level 3 courses, which might not be suitable for them at that time, is actually, it may be that we offer them GCSE Maths Resit, GCSE English Resit, because it may be that they've not got their grade 4s in those subjects, but also we might be able to boost, for example, their science, which might open doors to courses like applied science or psychology or things like that. So what I would say to you is if you feel like, or well, if you end up in that situation this summer, the important thing is to reach out to us and to have that conversation with us. I'll be very open and honest about what I can and cannot offer you, but I'm really, you know, I'm really keen to be able to support you where I can, and we do offer 3-year pathways for some students. And actually, in many cases, they can be really, really successful because children develop at different rates. And actually, what it is in some cases, it might be just that a particular student just needs a little bit longer to get to the same stage of doing level 3 courses. So please talk to us if you're in that situation. The next question is, how much support is there to help students get into university? So this is something that my predecessor, Mr. House, who was the head of sixth form, I think kind of really championed, and something that I've tried to take up the baton with really, is providing the absolute best kind of care and support for students with their next steps post 18, whether or not that's university or whether or not it's apprenticeships. I'd say that in particular, our programme for supporting students into university is second to none, really. We start really early on in year 12 in terms of educating the students about different pathways that they can take. And we begin preparing for UCAS applications, applying to universities at the end of year 12. So there's a series of tutorials where I'll talk the students through what UCAS is, how to write a personal statement, how to decide on courses, and actually we set students off at the end of year 12 with, right, you need to write a personal statement and you need to get an idea of which courses you might want to study at university. What we then have is there are 2 designated year 13 tutors who specialise in kind of supporting students with their application to universities, one of which is myself, and the second one is our fantastic librarian, Mrs. Hannum. So both myself and Mrs. Hannum have got extensive experience in preparing students for university application. In fact, only last night I was reviewing some personal statements and kind of making sure that they're kind of really up to speed, but also that our students are making sensible choices about their next steps and whether or not those courses are suitable for them. So we do lots of that, and actually the entirety of tutorial for the kind of beginning of year 13 is purely focused around next steps, making sure that their university applications are as good as possible, and to make sure we're getting that right. I would say that I think at this stage, the last time that I looked, I think half of our year 13 cohort had submitted their applications already, which is great. It's only the beginning of January and the deadline's the back end of so the beginning of December. Gosh, I'm a month ahead, and the deadline's at the back end of January. So we're a really long way on, and I only met with a group of year 13s just this morning, and we've already kind of planned in, I think, for 5 of them or 6 of them to come and submit their UCAS applications because they're looking fantastic and they're ready to go. We get it done nice and early so that students can focus on their studies, because the most important thing is getting the grades that they need to get into uni. So we provide extensive support for that. Next question is there a dress code for post 16? There is no kind of formal dress code. I know that some sixth forms would insist that students wear blazers or shirts and ties and things like that. We don't ask students to do that. What we say is come in something that you're comfortable in. The most important thing really in the sixth form is that you are working hard. You've got lots of independent study to do, the challenging courses, and you need to be comfortable. Clearly, you have to kind of wear something, you know, within certain parameters, and you know, there's certain things that are not acceptable to be worn within our sixth form environment. But actually, what I would say is my experience is that most of the young people that I work with at Sherborne High School turn up. They look very smart, they look very professional, and actually in no way does it impact learning whatsoever. So there's no formal dress code. It's just wearing things kind of within reason, as it were. Conscious of time, please feel free to put questions into the chat box. It doesn't display your name, and I can see them all. So if there are questions I've not answered them, please pop them into the chat box. But otherwise, I've got a few more questions to answer. But please feel free to put some questions into the chat box, and I can see them. Couple of questions, mainly around the collaborative, really. So the question was, how do lessons work if they're based at Tadcaster Grammar School? So we're really proud of our collaboration with Tadcaster Grammar School. It allows us to offer a wider curriculum, a wider range of subjects across the two schools, and it's something, as I say, that we're incredibly proud of. What the two schools do is we work together to put on a timetable so that what you'll typically have is you'll have a morning block and an afternoon block for each subject that you do. So in that sense, you only travel between the sites once per day. Okay, so a common misconception is that what happens is you do 1 hour at Sherborne, then you go to Tad, then you come back. It doesn't work like that. You literally would spend a morning, for example, doing psychology at Tadcaster. You get on the bus, you come back to Sherborne, and then you might do biology in the afternoon. Okay, so it works really, really well. There's a morning block and there's an afternoon block. The students speak really highly of their experience at Tadcaster Grammar School. They really enjoy getting to know kind of new students. So if your son or daughter sat in there thinking, well, I just want a new experience, want to meet some new people, they absolutely will do that at Tadcaster Grammar School. It's new staff, it's new people, it's a slightly bigger kind of sixth form. There's more people there just because of the size of the school. So it's a really good kind of next step when they're considering going to university and meeting new people. It's a nice stepping stone for that. Another question was, my son is eligible for free school meals, and is there financial assistance offered at post 16? The short answer is yes. We have what's called the post 16 bursary fund. So if you are eligible for free school meals, or you have been, then we talk to students, and we also communicate with parents and carers early on in year 12 about how you can access that financial assistance. The other thing to mention is that on the sixth form website link that I've sent out, if you look on the apply now, there is actually a link to information about the bursary fund. So if you check that out, but if you do want any information about the financial assistance that's available via sixth form, then please do get in touch. I'm really conscious of time. I don't know how those kind of 29-30 minutes have nearly already gone. If you do have any questions, please pop them into the chat box. Otherwise, I will fill the last couple of minutes with a few that I've got here. But feel free to ask any questions if you've got them. Whilst I wait for you frantically typing away those last minute questions, I'll answer a couple on here. How do students travel between Sherborne High School and Tadcaster Grammar School, and do they have to pay? So they don't have to pay. We put on a free shuttle bus that travels between the two sites. So it runs between Sherborne and Tad first thing in the morning. Normally the bus goes around 8:20 from Sherborne and it goes up to Tadcaster. They would then stay for their morning block of lessons, and then it comes back at lunchtime, and equally there's a bus that goes from Sherborne to Tad at lunchtime, so it goes both ways at lunchtime. At the end of the school day, the bus brings the students back. Typically, it brings students back towards after school buses have left, but actually we have an agreement with the bus company where what happens is those students are dropped off in different places in and around our catchment. So all students get a really, really good deal. And as I say, that shuttle bus is free. Okay, so you don't have to pay for it, and the students tend to really like it. It's quite nice just to jump on the bus just for 20 minutes. So that's how that works. Last question that I've got here is, do all of the courses listed in the subject booklet run in the sixth form? And when will I know which courses are running and which ones won't? So we publish a list of the broadest list possible of subjects that we feel that we may be able to put on in the next academic year. What I've been saying to students is, clearly if we only get, say, 1 or 2 students interested in a course, that means it's what's called a non-viable option. We are not able to put on courses where there are 1 or 2 children in a classroom with a member of staff. We just can't do it. We'd love to, but we just can't. So what we do is students need to put an application in January. And once they've put an application in January, we then look at which subjects are viable and which subjects are non-viable. So it's really important that if students are in any way interested in stopping on in the sixth form, they must put an application in. That's really important. Off the back of that, we'd make a decision about what we can offer. And for example, last year, I wrote to parents and carers and said, look, this is the situation. There's only tends to be a very small number of subjects that may not run, but we'll write to you in plenty of the time so that you're well informed and that you and your son and daughter can make a well-informed decision. So that's typically, we start looking at option pools and subjects in the January. So I normally would write to parents and carers March, April time to update you as to if there have been any changes. It's now 2 minutes past 6. If there are any last minute questions, I'm more than happy to take them. I know that we've run slightly over time, but if there are any other questions, then please type them in the chat box. I'll just hang on for another 30 seconds or so, because no doubt I will end the live Q&A just as someone's wanting to ask a burning question. Just to say that I realise obviously I've run this live Q&A event tonight, but we're still a long way off the kind of, when students would be expected to apply. We ask students to put an initial application in January, but really students can change their minds about which courses they want to change. Inevitably their GCSE results may change their minds about which courses they want to study. So if they do have any questions, or you as parents and carers have any questions, I would encourage you to send them via email. Also, you are absolutely welcome to arrange a meeting or a phone call or a Google Meet with myself and to talk through any questions or concerns that you might have. I've not received any questions through, so I'm going to kind of call it a day there. I hope that's been really useful. If you have got any further questions, please do get in touch. Otherwise, it's been absolutely brilliant to pop into Year 11 forums. I think I wrote in the letter to you guys earlier this week that it never ceases to be amazed. I never cease to be amazed at how welcoming our Sherborne High School students are. They're so humble, and it's now my 8th year at this school, and I think they're absolutely fab. So I'm looking forward to seeing the other 2 forms, and I also look forward to welcoming them back into the 6th form for their second taster day on Thursday, the 16th of December. Otherwise, the storm seems to have calmed down a little bit out here, so hopefully I can get home okay. But all the very best, and if I don't see you, if I don't speak to you, have a lovely Christmas. Take care. Bye.